I knitted both of these swatches exactly the same way. Same machine, same yarn, same settings, same everything. So I expected them to come out the same, but they didn't. But look at them. One is clearly smaller. The difference is 4 stitches per 10 centimeters. 4 stitches. That doesn't sound like much, until you use that number to calculate a sweater. I asked AI how to block a swatch. It gave me a clear answer. I followed it exactly. And this is what happened. I'm Lyudmila. I knit on a Silver Reed SK840. And on this channel, I don't just repeat what AI says about knitting. I test it. Real yarn, real swatches, real numbers. This video is about one AI recommendation: how to wet block a swatch made from Superwash Merino and nylon. The advice looked right. It was clear, and it made sense for hand knitting. But I'm a machine knitter. And something in that answer didn't feel quite right to me. So I ran an experiment. 2 swatches, 1 difference, and a result I didn't fully expect. I asked AI how to block a swatch. It gave me a clear answer. Detailed. Very confident. Lukewarm water. Soak for 15 to 30 minutes. Gently squeeze it. Don't wring it. Lay it flat to dry. I followed it exactly. But first, let me show you the experiment. I knit on a Silver Reed SK840. I made 2 swatches on same yarn. 75% Superwash Merino, 25% nylon. Same setting, number 7. Same cast on, 50 stitches. Same length, 60 rows. I kept everything the same on purpose. Before blocking, both swatches measured the same. 30 stitches and 42 rows per 10 centimeters. That was my starting point. This is where the experiment starts. This swatch goes into lukewarm water. 15 minutes. Exactly what AI recommended. This swatch, only one thing will be different between these 2 swatches. Just one. No soaking. Everything else stays the same. 15 minutes. Let's wait. That is exactly what AI recommended. Natural, relaxed state. No aggressive pinning. And this is where I have a problem with that advice. Superwash Merino doesn't bounce back the same way untreated wool does. When it gets wet, it moves, it grows, it settles where gravity takes it. So if you block it flat, with no tension, you're not really measuring how the sweater will behave. But I followed the instructions, exactly as given. Both swatches, same method. Now we wait. It's time to measure. This one is the swatch that was not soaked. 30 stitches per 10 centimeters, 38 rows per 10 centimeters. Now this one was soaked for 15 minutes and blocked the same way. 26 stitches per 10 centimeters, 36 rows per 10 centimeters. That is a difference of 4 stitches and 2 rows on just 10 centimeters. I want to show you one more thing in the AI answer, something I haven't mentioned yet. Soak for 15 minutes. Correct. It said, use lukewarm water. Correct. It said, lay it flat, let it relax, and don't pin it aggressively. Also correct, for hand knitting. But this advice was not written for a knitting machine, and that difference matters. When you knit by hand, the stitch comes from your hands, your tension, your rhythm, your needles. The fabric relaxes after blocking in a way that matches how it was made. On a knitting machine, it's different. The stitch is made under machine tension, and while the machine is knitting, the fabric is pulled down by weights. Those weights stretch the stitch while it is being formed. AI doesn't know this unless you tell it. It gave me a general answer for a general question. And there was one more thing it missed. Superwash. Merino has very little memory. Untreated wool can bounce back. Superwash often stays where you put it. So if you block it flat without thinking about how the sweater will be worn, you may not get a real gauge measurement. You may get a number that changes the moment the sweater is on the body. AI didn't mention any of this. Not the machine, not the weights. One answer. 2 missing pieces. Now imagine you are knitting a sweater, chest width, 50 centimeters. At 30 stitches per 10 centimeters, you need 150 stitches. At 26 stitches per 10 centimeters, you need 130 stitches. Same sweater, same size, 20 stitches difference, only one piece. If you calculate with the wrong gauge, your sweater can come out about 15 centimeters wider than planned. That is not just a small fitting problem. That is a different size. So, is AI useful for knitting? Yes, absolutely. It gave me a clear answer. It covered the basics, but it didn't consider that I was working on a knitting machine. I did mention that in my prompt. It didn't talk about the weights pulling the fabric while I knit. It didn't explain that Superwash Merino behaves differently from regular wool. AI works with what it has, and what it has is general knowledge. Not your machine, not your yarn, not your hands. That doesn't mean AI is bad. It just means you need to check the result in real life. So, the advice is a starting point, not a finish line. Test before you trust. That is the whole idea behind this channel. In every video, I take AI recommendations and I test them on a real machine, with real yarn, with real results. If that sounds useful to you, subscribe, because the next test is already in progress.